All right, so now I figure I'll give a tag a try. This is the Books and Life tag. I was tagged by Bex over at Get Bookish, and this is an original tag created by Steve Donahue. It's been a while since I've done a tag, so I thought I'd jump right in with prompt number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a normal person and 10 being the late Harold Bloom, which I have to revise. Honestly, Harold Bloom, unless you're an English lit major, probably doesn't mean a heck of a lot to you, although changing it up to Liberty Hardy, who, if you know, no one reads more than she does in a given year. Still pretty bookish wheelhouse. Liberty Hardy out of 10. How much are books and reading a part of your life? So, considering that the average American apparently reads 12 books a year, I have no idea how the heck they come up with that particular figure. I put myself at about a 7.5, maybe an 8. I read maybe a book a week. So, on a given year, I read anywhere between 50 to 70 some books. This year is actually looking to be a really good year for reading. But I consider myself lucky. I get to read. That's not something that I take lightly. A lot of people don't have the free time or the bandwidth, I guess, to read. I work from home. I sort of take off, make some dinner, get to relax, go for a walk with my wife, come home, maybe play some or watch. And every night I get about an hour, hour and a half of quiet time to read, which is a luxury, frankly. And it's so helpful for me. It keeps me from doom scrolling. I'm not on Twitter. It keeps me away from Reddit, social media. And I just get to sort of relax and quiet my mind, read a book. That's pretty damn lucky. Number 2, where does your personal library stand right now in relation to the rest of your life? Do you have more books now than you ever had? Fewer? How's your library changed? Well, this library behind me is pretty much my entire life now. This is the library, but it's also my office. If you pan over here, you can see my little workstation, and that is where I do my 9 to 5, do all my work, and the bookshelves behind pretty well serve as the backdrop to every single Zoom call that I've been on for the last 2 years. Yeah, so there. It is just this ubiquitous part of my life now. And if you pan over to the other side, you see the other PC. It's my daughter's gaming PC that I use just to play Overwatch, frankly, and unwind after a day of work. The majority of my waking hours is actually in this space with these books surrounding me. So yeah, it's pretty well a big part of my life. And obviously, reading. These are the books that I've finished. I don't actually have a lot of TBRs. I don't have TBRs on the bookshelves here. These are just books that I've read. And when they're done, that's where they go. So yeah, really kind of a big part of my life, I guess. Do I have fewer or more books? Well, I have more books, right? But I mean, I've got lots of space left on the shelves here. The way I figured it right now, the amount of space I have on these shelves, I have about a decade's worth of books yet to go. Even more if I continue to cull books as I do. We have a lot of free libraries within walking distance to where I am. And so a lot of the times I just go and I will drop a book off at the little free library. When we moved, we culled a ton of books. I brought boxes and boxes of them over to the used bookstore. I think I ended up getting like $80 for all of them. It hardly seemed worth the effort. And so now, really what I do is every so often I'll grab 1 or 2 books and just drop them off at a library here in town. There's a nice sort of stasis as far as the books here goes, but honestly, I do keep acquiring books, and so it does grow slowly. Here, the physical books, I do a lot. Actually, a majority of my reading is on an e-reader on my iPad. Number 3, take a mental step back and ask yourself, what is the most likely first bookish impression a newcomer would have in your home? Well, I hate to admit it, we're pretty pragmatic here in this household. We really don't have much of an aesthetic design sense. All the furniture that we own is pretty well secondhand. This office space here where I'm working, almost entirely secondhand. This is like furniture pulled from other offices that I've worked in, filing cabinets, under-desk carrels, even these bookshelves are just sort of picked up. If they're going to kick them to the curb, I'll just pick them up and bring them in here. So yeah, not a lot of design sensibility, perhaps. These are just functional shelves, but obviously there's a lot of frickin' books here, so I guess they would get the impression that I like books and reading. 4, how often, if ever, do you clean or reorganize your books? Back to that whole pragmatic thing, these books here, they don't move. I don't clean them, move them around, rearrange them. I dust them a little bit once in a while when I remember to, but where the books are is generally where they remain. New books just sort of get added into the empty spaces on the shelf. Nothing really gets sorted here. It's not organized by author or genre or country of origin. If I do make a concession, there's a small little space here, a shelf and a half, where I will add books and rearrange books. These are the books that I've gotten signed by the author. And so those are the only ones that just don't get placed on empty shelves. These are the ones I'll just move books around so I can accommodate any new ones. But gosh, given the fact that the last year and a half, 2 years have been all virtual events, not a lot of signed books to add to that particular section of the bookshelf, unfortunately. I am looking forward to real-world book events. I think that'll be great. I'm looking forward to being speechless and muttering in front of some author that I love yet again. Yeah, despite that sort of nerve-wracking experience, I do love that, and I do love getting those books signed. Number 5, on average, how many books do you acquire in a given week? Like I said, read about a book a week, but I think I buy maybe 1-2 books a month only, physical books. I mean, between the library and ebooks, I'll go to the bookstore. I know what it is that I want. I pick it up and bring it home and read it. So the library grows a little bit. I'd say I'd average maybe 20, 25 books total in a year, physical books that show up on the bookshelf. It's just, it has to be a certain type of book, because in a physical book, I need to have, like, I'm getting old, I need really good lighting. And so I'm making a very conscious decision about that particular book and how I'm going to be reading it. It will have to be very well lit. Sometimes it will be just seated instead of lying down. I do a majority of my reading in bed, lying down with an e-reader with all the lights off, because I don't need them because they're backlit on the iPad. It's just a different experience. I just don't get to read as many pages with the physical books. So that's why I do prefer the e-reader. Number 6, what is your current earworm? Halsey's. I'm not a woman, I'm a god. This thing has got 9 Inch Nails written all over it. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are the producers for this particular track, I believe for an entire album. But this thing just sounds exactly like a classic 9 Inch Nails song. I'm a huge 9 Inch Nails Trent Reznor stan from way back, from Pretty Hate Machine to Year Zero to the Academy Award-winning score work that he's been responsible for. This thing is just so classic 9 Inch Nails. Like, it's so identifiable, almost embarrassingly so. And yeah, I just can't get enough of this particular song. I've been listening to it like crazy. Yeah, I really do like that. And I still like a lot of the stuff that those guys are putting out. Even their Ghosts stuff has been like perfect background sort of ambient noise music for when I'm working. I can't work with lyrics at all, so that even serves me well. Number 7, what percentage of your self-control do you retain in a well-stocked bookshop? Okay, this is going to feel like not like other readers type of answer, but we have a handful of bookstores here in town that I frequent, and I don't really go and linger too long there. I kind of know what book I'm going to get before I set foot in the bookstore itself. I don't pick up books to add to my TBR. I don't have a TBR. The book that I'm picking up at the bookstore is the book that I'm going to start reading that day. I'm not lingering and thinking, how can I add to this sort of book list? I don't come out of there with a whole pile of books. That's why I don't really go to used bookstores either, because I want a particular book, and that's all I'm there for. Yeah, I don't know how some of you people do that with a TBR in the hundreds. That would just drive me absolutely crazy. I go, I know that I'm going to be picking up The Other Black Girl. I look for it. There it is. I buy it. Off I go. I am done. So yeah, self-control, not really a problem in these bookstores. Now, that's a different story when I travel. Then I will happily linger in a bookstore. I mean, the ones here in town, the independent, the big Chapters, which is the big chain here in Canada. Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time. I sort of beeline to the book that I'm after, get it, pay for it, get out. But traveling, I will spend quite a bit of time in the bookstore and just see what they sort of put out on the table, how they pick the certain genres, the coffee table books, the independent magazines, especially in a different country, the magazines that they do have, the works in translation. I've been to places with incredible works in translation shelves that are fun to linger on. And yeah, it's interesting to see what gets front-faced in a particular bookshop, and all the sort of nooks and crannies that you can find and all the other interesting knickknacks that you can see in that bookstore. Number 8, do you ever feel the need to take a break from books? If so, what form does it take? Taking a break from books is frankly called a book slump. And I get it. It happens sometimes. It just the white noise gets to be too much. The monkey chatter is just something you can't quell, and suddenly, unfairly for this poor book, you're just not giving it all the attention it deserves because you just are distracted. There are times when I'm reading and I'm consuming the words, but it's not sticking. And so what would have been like a 4.5 star read just ends up being like a 3, 2.5, because it's just, I'm not doing the mental work. I'm finding myself reading a paragraph and completely forgetting what I'd read in that paragraph itself. Everyone has these slumps. So I don't actually find that I want to take a break from reading. I can take a break from certain types of reading. I like to switch it up. Right now, I'm just a little late to the game, but I picked up a graphic novel, which is always great pre-slump as well. I've got Monstrous, which I'm looking forward to checking out. I just grabbed that the day before yesterday. And so I can switch things up and try something else. But oh man, I really do need to have that wind down time. So I don't actively want to take a break necessarily from reading. Although when I vacation, I generally don't read. Number 9, when you meet a new person, how long does it take you to bring up books? Yeah, I don't really bring up books with other people. It doesn't seem to be part of the cultural conversation. It's more likely that you're going to talk about Squid Game and how you feel about the translation, about Squid Game, or what is it actually about? Is it casino capitalism? Oh, it's about the disparity of wealth in the world. It is about how awful the English language actors are in Korean series. It's like they're different writers entirely for those group of people. And it's like they're the most stilted actors in the world. It's more often than not, you sort of talk about that, what's going on, like Tiger King or Only Murders in the Building. I don't know if you've watched that. It is a great series. It just finished its first season, and there are just some laugh out loud parts to that show, and I really did enjoy that one. And then, following up Squid Game with My Name, another Korean drama that's being released serially, which I kind of like. But that ends up being what you talk about. At the office, it is really debating whether you are a lover of butter tarts, and I get it. Not everyone knows what butter tarts are. I didn't realize it was a predominantly Canadian thing. Butter tarts, wonderful, sugar-filled treat that is an abomination and rendered inedible if you add raisins to it. Although there's some knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing heathens out there in the world that actually like raisins in their butter tarts. I mean, it takes all kinds, I suppose. Anyway, ends up usually talking about food, cultural media, hardly ever about books. What are the chances, frankly, that, have you read She Who Became the Sun? Looking forward to checking that out. Does anyone ever heard of that book? Do they even know what you're talking about when you mention that? Kind of doubtful. So, not really bringing up books all that often. I do have friends, of course, that we can talk about books a little bit when we see each other, but on the whole, it's not what I lead with. Sorry, this is really rambly, isn't it? Whatever, just indulge me here a little bit, okay? Number 10, have you given any thought, made any provisions for your personal library after you croak? Oof, wow, Steve, really? I know we're getting up there in years, but that seems a little morbid. This personal library? Okay, so my wife and I were getting older, and we've had to contend with deaths in the family and the extended family. And what is heartrending, weird, strange, and maybe it is just our family, we've had to deal with their possessions after they've passed. And honestly, you do it enough times and you realize a lot of that stuff is just garbage. It ends up in a landfill somewhere. I mean, I know my wife's grandparents, they had furniture that sort of got handed down, like well-built stuff. Maybe a little baroque and ornate. No one needs this sort of hutch to show off all their china anymore, but beautiful stuff that actually stands the test of time. Most of the stuff that people are buying now is pretty disposable. Not a lot of use for it. And so it is a little tragic that we've cleaned up a person's house and their entire life fit in the back of a pickup truck to be sent to the dump. Yes, I know. It's a little morbid. I didn't make this question up. We've been slowly culling a lot of the stuff in our house as well. I mean, like, why do we keep it? It doesn't make any sense. We might as well just get rid of it. We're kind of ruthless about that. And I've been slowly disposing of things in our house, knickknacks, stuff that everybody has a box of things that you've never opened from the last time that you've moved. Well, now we're going through that and getting rid of it. As far as the books itself goes, I hold no illusions. The books themselves aren't going to be worth a heck of a lot. If my daughter wants to like sort of pick through and find some interesting books that she would want to read, which she's done in the past, great. Welcome to it. Her kids, if she decides to have any, can also look through and see. But if it ends up just going in some estate sale or getting thrown in boxes for some church library book sale, I'm okay with that too. I'm not really too worried. I don't think I have any really valuable books in the collection here that I should feel possessive about. Number 11, are you known among your friends and loved ones for your weird and probably unhealthy relationship with books? No, I'm not. I don't bring up books. I don't talk about books. I consume a lot of bookish media. I obviously read a lot of books, but that's not really a personality trait. It's not like I go running out there and like, I'm a Gryffindor. You don't talk about books all that often. People are just going to give you a blank look. Yeah, bit of a dick move having this as a background all the time. I realize that comes off as a little douchey. It's like, ooh, look, all the books that you read. Yeah, but this is also my office. This is where I do all my work. They're there. Fine. Whatever. Books. I like reading them, but I do not bring them up all that often. I don't think. I hope not. God, I hope I'm not one of those dickish book readers. I have to read because of just the way my head is at. As an introvert, you need time to decompress after spending a day out there talking with people and dealing with individuals. You need that downtime. Reading is a way to sort of quiet my head because yes, it just gets way too much noise up in there. And I find that social media and that endless doom scroll really isn't good for my head. It really just gets me in a more and more anxious state. During the day, your head, your brain waves are just these sharp, spiky things that are like going all over the place. And reading just helps smooth out those curves in big, long theta waves. It's almost like you're in the zone when you're reading, which is kind of nice. And I kind of need to do that. So yeah, personally, books are a big and important part of my life. It's therapeutic. It is just an important part of keeping me somewhat even-keeled. So yeah, I like reading and I need to read. And that's it. All right, so that is the Books and Life tag. That was actually a lot of fun. I apologize again. It's just so rambly, but it's been a while. I'm going to have a list of people down in the description below that I am tagging to do this video if they so feel. Oh, it's hard to believe that it is nearing the end of October here and we're sliding right into winter. It's one hell of a thing. I usually have my big existential crisis around this time, so we'll just see if that actually manifests as a reading slump and then sort of picks up at around December and I'm back to reading again. All right, so that is it for me this week. I hope you all have a great week of reading and we'll talk to you again soon.